once I really started to understand the fundamental principles, you can go a long way with any camera.
Yeah.
You can go a long way. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's in any industry. If you learn the fundamentals, whether we're talking about camera, whether we're talking about basketball,
Facts.
whether we're talking about writing or whatever, if you learn the fundamentals of it, everything will just grow. We don't need to do all this extra fancy, all that stuff. Learn the basics. If you learn about making sure that your lighting is good, making sure you learn about aperture, make sure you learn about, the shutter speed, make sure you learn about, what to focus on, and all of these different things. If you get all of those things tight, like you're good. Everything else will just flow.
What's up, family? We're back with the Digital Storytellers Academy YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about why you don't need the best camera to be a great photographer.
Yes. Awesome. So I hope you guys are doing well today. My name is Juiette Payne, and this is my partner,
Bakari Kamal.
Yes. So, guys, we just want to break that myth right off the bat. You do not need the most expensive gear to be an awesome photographer. And that's what we want you guys to know here at Digital Storytellers. It is about being a storyteller above all else. So with whatever you have, you can get started, and we can attest to that. So we're going to kind of tell you some of the stories of our adventure as photographers over the years, and how we've been able to monetize even before we even had these specific cameras, and how you can too. So Bakari, I know that you have been doing photography since, about 10, 15 years or so?
Yeah, probably about 14 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you first started, you could look back on all of the footage and videos and stuff from back in the day. First of all, do you ever go through like Facebook or Instagram? You do too, right? You go through these pictures and videos and you be like, did this like mess up over the years or something? Or is this how our shots used to look? And I think that's how the cameras used to be.
Yeah.
But at that time we didn't even recognize that, but it was still an enjoyable experience. We still enjoyed those photos, still brought those lasting memories and everything like that, right? Absolutely. So tell me about when you first started. What were you using? How did you get into it and all of that?
So when I first started photography, I was using a Canon Rebel T3.
Okay.
So, the Rebel series still to this day is a great entry point for anybody that's looking to get into photography or film. And so that's what I had. I had saved up like half of what it cost at the time. And my parents, they gave me the other half.
There you go.
I got it for Christmas. And I just started taking pictures of everything, like family photos, maternity, street photography, landscape. And I was just exploring and adventuring. That was some of the best times, actually, just adventuring and exploring with the camera.
Yeah.
But I think what I found out quickly was that I need to figure out how to use these settings. How does this menu system work? What makes a good photo? What makes a bad photo? Because I think what I was doing was I was looking at other people's work and, watching YouTube videos and looking at the Peter McKinnons and people of the world. And I'm like, man, that's super crispy. Like, how can my video and my photos look like that? And so that's really how I started. And I didn't have the best gear. I didn't have a flash. I just had my Rebel Canon T3, and I was off to the races. What about you?
That's awesome. Yeah, same. I remember being, I believe I was a senior in high school. I got my first camera, and I was able to get the Nikon, I forget which one it was, maybe 5300, something like that. But it was something where like around maybe $300 or something. So it was just like one of those kind of like entry-level Nikons and everything like that. But it was absolutely phenomenal just practicing. And the same thing, it goes back to the actual story and actually studying the different individuals. Like, man, how do I get my shots to kind of look like this? You're doing the research to try and get better and everything. But even with those settings on those cameras and stuff, it was turning out good. Now it's funny because like you mentioned, the flash, like I didn't have an actual external flash. I think it actually had a flash that was attached to it. Or something that kind of popped up. But it had the slot too, also the hot shoe mount for you to put an actual flash on it. But I didn't have that as well. And at that time, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I took a good photo. Then looking back, you're like, okay, this could be, a little better as time progresses and everything. But right there, it was doing justice because you're just getting started. And that's the key,
Yeah. You talk a lot about storytelling with photography. What does it look like And what does it mean to tell stories with photography from your perspective?
Yeah, exactly. So a big thing we talk about as photographers is composition. Like, what are you trying to emphasize in the photo? Now, sometimes you have the subject that you really want to focus on, and sometimes it's the negative space that you actually want to focus on. It's like, before you take this shot, what is your emphasis? That's the first thing. But then also, what's the emotion that you're trying to, for this photo to say without words? You know, a photo is different from video. You know, you got the sweeping movement. You can actually see the smiles or the frowns come into the video. As far as the movement. But in the photo, it's a still frame, but it still has to kind of allude to, like, hey, these are all the emotions that was happening around this shot, this one little moment in time. You know? So with that, when you take these shots, I mean, the angles, where you're specifically putting the subject, we definitely know about lighting, what kind of lighting, the scenery you want. All of those different things are key in a photo.
I think, you know, you bring this idea of focus and composition. It reminds me of something that Myron Golden says. For those who don't know, Myron Golden, go check him out.
The GOAT.
The GOAT. But he talks about how frames create focus, right? And he's talking about it from the perspective of sales, right? And how to frame particular things and get your audience to focus on a particular area of what they need to focus on so that you can make a sale. And of course, doing it with a spirit of integrity. But when you're thinking about, he's taking that idea from a frame and actual picture. And when you talk about composition, it's super important to understand, what am I intentionally putting in this image? Because that is what people are going to look at. That's what their eye is going to gravitate to. And that's what determines it could be the difference between, oh, this is a great photo that is in the history books forever, or it could be like, what are we looking at here? You know, that's the difference. And when I think about, like, photos that are long-lasting photos, they're not always with great cameras. You know, when you think about storytelling, some photos are just, you were there. You actually captured a moment that nobody else captured. This volcano erupted, nobody else was there, or this major life event happened, and you took your phone out and captured it. You know, so it's not always about, I need the best lens and I need the best flash. It's sometimes about, did you capture the moment? And that's super critical, is capturing the moment, and that's a big part of storytelling with photography.
So what we're saying is, it's not really about what type of gear you specifically have, but the quality of how you're creating this image. That's what's key, right? So some key things, like some simple things that you want to make sure you focus on, is making sure the camera's not blurry, making sure it's wiped off. Now let's just start off, you know what I'm saying? Let's just start off, we start with the basics. You know, let's start off with, hey, you have this camera phone. Now, when you take these images, you want to make sure that that's cleared off. That's key. You want to make sure that the focus is there, whatever the subject is. You know, you can tap the screens at this point. You can even raise up and lower the exposure right there on the screen. It's so cool. So really paying attention to those specific things, because all of the tools essentially do the same thing. So it doesn't matter necessarily how high quality is, like you said, it's the moment that you want to capture. And you want someone looking back in and there's a finger in the picture, you know, or some type of blur or everything. I was thinking back how I still have that relic. You know, like I said, like the very first iPhone. Like I still have that. And I look at that camera, I'm like, how small this thing was. And I was Googling it and looking it up, and it was saying it was like a 2 megapixel camera, super small. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But again, we were just using that, and we're not thinking back of, like, man, that moment was bad because of the type of camera we used. We were just making sure we were taking these shots, you know? So it was awesome.
And I think a lot of times when you are wanting to develop in the craft of photography, that's not something that you really want to hear, right? It's not a popular message. You don't need gear, because everybody has gear, right? But when you look at what's going on in the marketplace, man, I mean, people are using their phones, and they're taking professional. You started off with your phone, doing your video.
Yeah, we're already doing a bunch of projects, events, and everything. And you know, in another video, we're going to be talking about different editing tools and software that you can use that's free or very inexpensive. But again, we were using our phone, and then we use like the free editing apps to do videos, and we were just putting it together, putting the music in there, getting all of the graphics and sending it out.
That's crazy.
And it was great. Like, we look back like, man, this is where we started, and this was good for what we had.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about the progression of the iPhone camera, most people these days have a phone.
Yes.
Whether it's an iPhone or Android. I mean, there's 3 cameras now in these phones, like multiple cameras so that you can get, different types of HDR looks, so you can do a wide and a zoomed in. So everything that you need is in the phone. I think, to your point, there's a few major things that I most of the time see beginners mess up on in their photography, whether they have a phone or a expensive camera. It's framing, blurriness, like, is the image in focus, right? So you have that composition, you have, is this image in focus, but also just being intentional about lighting. It's another way to tell stories.
That's literally, if we just sit right there, like, lighting is photography. Like, that's the name. So if your lighting is not on point, then that's an issue. Like, photography, literally, photo, it's the light. That's the whole point of it. So you want to make sure that your lighting is very intentional. Above all else, if you don't do anything else right, you have to have the proper lighting in your photos.
The proper lighting is critical, and I think just putting that additional level of intention, seeing, okay, do I want this to be backlit, or is this backlit and I'm actually trying to capture this subject and I can't see them? Right? Or am I doing this intentionally to get a silhouette? Right? Like, just being very intentional about your lighting is critical. But I think if I was to go back, there's so much equipment that I bought that I never used. Or I bought it was a waste, and if I was to go back in time, I would have just spent that money on courses or like developing my skill set, or putting myself, instead of paying for this gear that I never used, paying to go somewhere where I could get an interesting subject to capture, right? That would have made all the difference in my craft early on. Hey, thanks for watching the video, but really quick, are you looking to level up your creative skills and build a thriving creative business?
If so, you want to join the 5-day Media Mastery Bootcamp. This is an intensive training that's going to help you master filmmaking and photography, editing and storytelling, and branding and content strategy.
We're not just going to teach you the bare minimum basics. We're going to give you real world skills and strategies that are going to help you stand out in the marketplace.
So if you're ready, make sure you enroll today. Space is limited and you don't want to miss this. The link is in the description below. Now, back to the video. It's like, it's a balance of, you want to get the inspiration that you want as you continue to grow. So we may be inspired and be like, okay, let me get this gear because that's the gear that they have. But it's not really that. That's kind of the overarching aspect. What it really is the depth of the quality and everything that specific individual filmed. It's not really like the gear that they used. It's digging deeper into education of how they did it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily always the what, it's the how. You know? So that's key. So as you continue to search for other photographers who may inspire what you're doing, don't pay attention like, oh man, they got this big old, gear over their bodies and stuff as they're like filming all of this stuff, or taking these photos and everything. It's not about that. Pay attention to that shot and how they composed it. I'm always gonna go back to, how was this shot composed? And that goes again with the lighting, the subject, the emotion that you are feeling when you see the specific photo. And that can happen with any type of gear that you're using, Now, tell me an experience of, you say you started off with your Canon. Okay. How did it go as far as you being able to, or rather, what level is that Canon as far as like, is that entry level?
That was very entry level.
Very entry level?
Yeah, beginner level DSLR.
Awesome, there we go. So with that, were you able to monetize from that, and how did that go in those beginning projects?
Totally, man. I mean, I think starting off, I was really just doing it as a hobby, something I was interested in. But what I realized was that people were like, hey, do you do this? Do you do that? And they were offering me, money to do what I was doing as a hobby. That's how we're sitting here today. It really is crazy. Wow. But, that's how it started off. And it was like, I didn't even have the confidence in myself at the time to be like, oh yeah, let me charge this, or because I was still learning, because I felt like my gear wasn't this or wasn't that. But I think that once I really started to understand the fundamental principles, you can go a long way with any camera.
Yeah.
You can go a long way. So
Yeah, and that's in any industry. If you learn the fundamentals, whether we're talking about camera, whether we're talking about basketball,
Facts.
whether we're talking about writing or whatever, if you learn the fundamentals of it, everything will just grow. We don't need to do all this extra fancy, all that stuff. Learn the basics. If you learn about making sure that your lighting is good, making sure you learn about aperture, making sure you learn about, the shutter speed, make sure you learn about, what's a focus on, and all of these different things. If you get all of those things tight, like you're good. Everything else will just flow.
I would add on that, like the basics aren't basic, right? I think when I used to hear learn the basics, I used to be like, nah, man, I want to get into the fancy stuff, or I want my stuff to look really good.
Yeah.
But the basics aren't basic from the perspective of when I'm shooting and doing photography in different environments and different settings, you have to lean on the basics to create something amazing. I need to know, well, how do I shoot in this building? And then if we have to rush outside and shoot, how do I change my settings to be able to shoot outside and still get a properly exposed image?
Exactly.
And that's not basic. That's skilled, talented work. And it takes years to develop that skill set. But if you spend more time honing in on the foundational aspects of, what shutter speed do I need to be at if I'm capturing a moving subject? Or maybe I'm capturing a moving subject and I want this dreamy look. So now my shutter speed is super low. Right? Those are things that you have to understand the basics of to be able to be successful in any situation that you're thrown into as a creator.
That's so good. Oh man, that's so good. I love that you mentioned that, like when you're taking a specific photo and say we've seen those images where like there's a car driving, you get that nice trail of light behind and everything, you're gonna lower the shutter speed for something like that.
Exactly.
So you play these different adjustments, and then let's say if you are doing a night shot outside or something like that and it's dark, now if you continue to bump up that ISO, you're going to kind of get this grainy type of image. So you're going to need some type of additional lighting to be able to set you up. You may want to make sure you get that flash. Or make sure that you have, if you can carry around, sometimes I've had like the lights where you can put the battery pack in it, and I kind of have that as well to get like a nice shot, and then you just angle it the right way or wherever you want the shadows. So you're playing with light and shadows, so you play with darkness as well.
Exactly.
It's just like, so much fun. Like just even thinking about this is so much fun to explore, and it would just be great, in one of these videos for us to go ahead and explore actually going out and doing a shoot. Actually showing you guys, us actually going out and doing a shoot, have someone to be a model and actually show all these different skills and how to utilize the camera. And then we can show it to you from the aspect of using a phone, and then using an SLR, using a mirrorless, using all these different cameras, and kind of show you, so that'll be adding value to you guys. We can show you those different things and everything because we've experienced all of that.
We have, and one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking was that, this whole video was about not needing gear, and when I think about, I didn't know what I wanted to shoot starting off. And you have to purchase gear in accordance with what you want to shoot. So why spend so much money and time and stress about, what equipment should I get? You don't even know what you really want to focus on. If you know you want to focus on sports photography, now you need to know, okay, I need to save up for an expensive telephoto lens that can zoom in all the way to, 400, 500 millimeters, right? But if I am so thirsty to buy the newest piece of gear, I don't even know what I want to shoot. You could be wasting money, because there's plenty of times where I purchase things and I'm like, well, this doesn't really fit the need for where I actually landed in terms of my craft, in terms of what I was shooting. And so, like I said, when I started off, I was doing maternity, landscape, street photography. All those different types of photography have different needs. So that's why when you buy a camera, you get a kit lens. So you can generally do everything and get a feel for it.
And then through that, it's the struggle of, this actually didn't turn out how I wanted it to be. Then you start doing your research like, I want to do this type of photo. So I'm going to get this type of lens now. And then you start kind of building from there. But with what you have right away, just go through the process of learning.
Yeah.
And feeling everything out. And even like you said, learning what specific photos you want to do. Because if you want to just do, let's say, portrait, the lens you have may already just be good for something like that, and you're good.
Yeah.
And now if you want your background to have a little bit more blur to it, then you may want to get another lens where the shutter, or rather where the f-stop is a bit different, you know?
Yeah.
So all of those different things, as you just continue to go along, you'll learn, and it's just such a great experience, you know?
Yeah.
But again, don't let it hinder. The trick is don't let it hinder you from getting started. Don't throw a lot of money into it. Start with what you have. You bought you a cell phone, fantastic. Start making some money from that. Start putting some of that to the side for in the future when you want to get something else. But don't right away go and buy all of it and it's just going to sit there, you know? Start with what you have. Start monetizing, because it's going to be excellent if you learn those fundamentals.
Bruh.
You know, and then from there you start building. Be like, okay, now I want to get a little bit more clarity. Now I want to get a little bit more lighting in. You know, I want to get a little bit more fancy with this, using the flash and whatever it is. You know, so that's the key with that.
And it's a myth that more equipment is gonna make you a great photographer and get you more sales if you're actually doing it as a business or a freelancer, because there's things like sales skills and marketing skills. Systems and operational excellence. Those are the things that's going to make you a great photographer in a lot of cases. I know people who work in corporate spaces and get these great gigs because they're business savvy. Not because they're super, I mean, they're great, you know, they're cool, but they're not the best photographers in the world. So I think there's this fallacy that, oh, if I get this new lens, if I get this great flash, people are going to see my work. When the reality is, a lot of clients, they don't know the difference between me when I started off with my T3 and me today with, you know, Sony A7S, whatever. Like, because you're the expert, you're the subject matter expert. So those micro advancements you're gonna notice as the creative, but your audience, a lot of times they're not gonna notice.
Yeah, that's so good. No, that's such a great point. I'll wrap up, you know, with this here. So there was a church that would call us to do Mother's Day photo shoots, you know, for the last few years. So one year we did it, fantastic. They absolutely loved it. Next year we did it, loved it. The third year into it, we were unable to do it because now I'm worship leading at the church that I'm at. So there was no way for us on that Sunday to miss it, you know. So send out someone else to kind of do the shoot, you know, all of that. You know, the feedback in that situation was like, hey, they weren't as interactive with all of the different individuals and the families that came into the room on that Sunday. You know, they weren't kind of really positioning the people and telling them, they just kind of came in and just kind of took the shot. So that's the part, exactly what you're talking about. It's not just knowing these technical skills of just like, okay, I know how to press the camera and all this stuff. You want to have that relationship with the individuals. You want to have that kind of sales type of business aspect of it as well. You know, being able to make that connection, but then also being able to, I don't know, I just keep going to composition. That's a big thing for me as a photographer. In that shot, you have to frame it in such a great way, you know? So with that, you know, you got to talk to them, like, okay, you shift over, make sure everyone's in there. Okay, you make sure you're looking, you know, shift over here, smile, and then build that relationship, have the conversations with them and all of that. That part's missing. That's the whole storytelling aspect. You know, you want to be able to make that connection when they think back. It wasn't just this photo was great. They're going to think about the experience as well. Like, oh, this wedding photo was great, but man, that photographer, they were mean, you know. You don't want that. You want the whole experience back. Man, we had so much fun. You're a part of the enjoyment of it. You know, so that's key as well.
No, that's powerful, man. I think what we've learned today in our chat is that there's a lot of things that make a great photographer, and gear is not number one on the list. Right. Composition, understanding the basics, being a great salesman, understanding business. Those are the things that really make you a great photographer.
So good.
That's what's up.
Love it. Man, hey, I'm excited. One day we're going to do a video, y'all, where we're going to be out on a shoot, and you guys can learn from there. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be awesome.
Yes,
So I hope you guys really took value from this episode. Get out there, get your phone out. Go ahead and take some photos. Go ahead and send them to us. Let us know how it went. Comment below and let us know, how did your photo shoot go? Were you able to monetize? Did you learn a new skill? Do you feel like you need to get some new equipment and gear to go to that next level of what you're starting to see as you continue to grow and develop? Let us know. We would love that. But again, we are Digital Storytellers Academy, and we will see you guys next time.
Make sure you go like and subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe right there. You see it pop up on the screen. See you guys next.